So I have taken the liberty of drafting this letter and I'm going to show you. So the applicant name is Robin Sharma. He lives at this address. So on the right hand side, you will list your name, address, and contact details, which is listed here. Please make sure the numbers are correct. These are fictitious in nature, but I'm just giving a structure. Now, this is the date of application when you've actually decided that yes, you are making the application and you will submit it. Okay. Now, you will write to the naturalization assessment officer, home office, pretty standard, and then you give subject cover letter in support of naturalization application Robin Sharma. Please make sure you give your UAR. This reference number is provided to you once you have made the payment of 1700 that. Now, in the first paragraph, you have to write that you're applying for British citizenship. Let's have a look, which is here by naturalization. So naturalization is the process. The purpose of this letter is to provide clear summary of how I meet statutory requirements under the British Nationality Act 1981 and to guide the case officer through supporting evidence. So basically, it in a very short paragraph it says I'm applying for British citizenship application by naturalization and I'm providing a clear summary, and through this letter and the information that you've already filled in the application form online, the case officer will look at this letter and will go and look at the evidence step by step. So let's look at the basis of eligibility. So we are saying here the basis of eligibility and residence. I entered the UK as a skilled worker visa on 10th of April 2015 and have resided continuously in the UK since that date. I was granted indefinite leave to remain, which is ILR, on 31st of May 2024, and I have held ILR for over 12 months prior to this application as required. So I have clearly stated the dates. Dates are extremely important. This is the date of entry into the UK. Then I was granted when I was granted ILR, which is 31st of May 2024. This should be evident on your passport, and then you have waited for 12 months. Now, I have completed 5 years of continuous lawful residence immediately preceding this application. So, we are making this application on 10th of September. So, 12 months before that was 10th of September 2024. He was granted ILR on 31st May 2024. So he waited actually more than 12 months. So June, July, August, September. So almost like 3, 4 months he has waited. So that means he had enough time between the time he got his ILR. He waited for 12 months or more, and then he's making that application. Now what he says is so specifically, the qualifying period of residence is this in terms of that you must have stayed in the UK prior to the date of application for at least 5 years, right? You must have stayed in the UK for 5 years. So from 10th of September 2020 till 10th of September 2025, he has completed his 5 years of qualifying period based on which he's trying to claim. Now, mind you, besides the requirement of being living in the UK for 5 years, you have to meet certain other grounds, which is that you must have not been absent from the UK in the last 5 years, not more than 450 days, or in the last 12 months, not more than 90 days. I gave this information in the previous video when I was teaching you how to file a British citizenship application form online. If you don't know, please go in and look back at the video. It's also in the link down below. Please go and have a look because this is really important. Now, he needs to show that he has stayed between this and this period in the UK. So, whatever documentation or anything that he's trying to show should cover this period to prove that he's actually lived in the UK. So, he's saying copies of passport vignettes, passport pages, all pages, colored copies, UK entry and exit stamps have been submitted to clearly demonstrate my lawful presence during the period. This ensures that the case officer can easily verify that I meet the residence requirement. So understand that under the British nationality, when you want to claim citizenship, you have to have lived in the UK for continuously for 5 years, and then there are certain absences allowed. If you do not meet this residence period, then it means you're not eligible. So in the very first paragraph, he's telling the case officer that I came into the UK on this and this date. This is the date I was granted ILR. Then I waited for 12 months, and then I made the application, and that's how I have covered the whole 5 years period. Okay. Now look at the second point, the absences from the UK, which I told you that you should have been present in the UK in the 5 years period. And if you went outside the UK in the last 5 years, you should have not gone outside the UK for more than 450 days, or in the last 12 months, not more than 90 days. So he clearly says here, during the qualifying period, I've been absent from the UK on two occasions, a visit to Mumbai in 2021 for 28 days and a further visit in 2023 for 40 days. The total absences are well within the permitted limit, that is this, that not exceeding 450 days in the last 5 years and 90 days in the final 12 months. Now, I could have written the date that I was absent from this date to this date, that includes 28 days, and then other date that includes 40 days. Now, I don't want to duplicate it or provide redundant information which is already provided in the online application form. Mind you, this letter acts as complementary to information that you provided in the British citizenship application form. So therefore, I've just made sure that I have said I was outside of the UK. I went to Mumbai for first 28 days in 2021 and then 40 days in 2023, and then I've stated the rule. Okay, just to confirm and to prove, I've said travel e-ticket copies and passport stamps have been included so that the case officer can clearly confirm that these absence do not breach the contents residence requirement. Now let's pause. So whenever you leave the UK, there is no stamp. But when you arrive in a foreign country, say for example like India, the immigration would say arrival. Then when you depart, they will say departed. But when you arrive back into the UK, you say if you ended up arriving at London Heathrow, you would have a London Heathrow immigration stamp in black color. That what he's talking about, that I have provided the copies of that. Therefore, when you're providing supporting evidence of your passport copies, say current passport copy or even the older copy, it is clearly stated in the rules in the checklist that you must scan each and every page in a colored format in a chronological order, whether you have a current passport or the old passport. It is through these pages they will figure out when you entered the UK, when you left the UK. Okay, that's why this person is mentioned. On top of that, to solidify his application, he's saying, I am providing, in addition to that, copies of my e-tickets because he would have flown by a plane. So he has provided the copy of his e-ticket. There would be a departure time, departure date, then return time, and the name of the provider and the money that he's paid. I have done that exactly for two applicants and we were successful. And the reason why I say this is because it's always difficult to navigate through the passport when you have several stamps, right? It makes the job of the case assessment officer difficult to go through several pages, even though you provided the copy. What can really make it like sweet and easier for a person to understand is, okay, he has a copy of his passport that I see, but he has an e-ticket that clearly shows that he left from this airport, arrived at this airport. They can even make inquiries with the other country jurisdictions. They can ask them whether this person was really there because they share data, right? So if you provide a copy of your e-ticket, it is really helpful. English language requirement and life in the UK requirement. Now, for those people who are not under the age of 18 or above the age of 65, there is a requirement that you have to have sufficient knowledge of English language, which is level B1, and you must have passed the life in the UK test requirement. So you get a certificate. Normally, you enter the information about that you got the online reference number for the English language or the certificate for the English language to prove your English, or you can say that I did not give an English test, but my degree was taught in English. I got it verified by an organization called ECC requirements. Okay, so I'm going to remove this. Then life in the UK test is pretty short. You can book it through gov.uk, cost about £50. So you would have got a reference number. You provide that you pass those tests. Okay, if you are above the age of 65 or you're a minor, right, and you're applying for them, say that I am claiming exemption based on the age because I'm above the age of 65, right? You can claim that I'm claiming exemption. And as far as how to prove I'm above the age of 65, you say you can see the proof of my age through my passport copy in which the age is already written. That's it. Now, the next part is passport and travel history documentation. You say, I hold a current passport and previous cancelled passport containing evidence of my settled status. Colored copies of all pages, both passports have been provided. These documents give a complete picture of my travel history, including entry and exit stamps for the UK and the Schengen visa. If you've traveled, I had a case where someone traveled where the exact dates of prior applications were unavailable. Scanned copies of stamps and relevant home office reference numbers have been included. Now, normally, you don't have to include this paragraph, But in my case, where I was writing for an applicant, they had traveled to Switzerland also and other Schengen area countries also. I had to provide that, and they had lost a passport. Now, this is where I was trying to tell you why cover letter is extremely important. So there was no place for us to say that a passport was lost in the online application form, but I had to provide all the copies of the passports of previous applications to the UK. That have you made an application for immigration to the UK? We said yes, but we did not had a box where we could say we had lost the passport. So here I'm giving that context. So if you have a current valid passport with you, but you've lost your passport, or anything has happened, it's damaged or whatever it is, you provide the context here so that they can see for themselves, right? So normally here we're saying is you require us to provide a colored copy of each and every passport in a chronological order. I have done that. So what they will do is they will look at this cover letter, they will go to the current identification document tab in the TLS portal, and they will download the copy of a current passport, old passport, and at least they will know when they're assessing the application that this person has already informed me that he lost a passport. That's it. Okay. Let's move on to the next one. Referees, extremely important. I was mentioning in my previous video where you need two referees who must be British citizens. They should have known you for more than 3 years. They should not be a family relative or your solicitor who's actually making this application in case you're using one. And he has to be under one of those lists. Now, what happens is that many people get scared that I don't know any solicitor or chartered accountant or doctor personally who's known me, and they think I don't know who to refer. And sometimes they end up lying and they use the name of someone who's actually related to them. And if you do that, your application would most likely be refused because you are giving false information. The better idea is this, which I'm going to show. I do not personally know any solicitor, accountant, or listed professional who has known me personally for more than 3 years. Accordingly, I've relied on personal referee as permitted under the Home Office guidance. One referee is my neighbor who has known me for over 3 years. The second referee is my close friend and known to me over 5 years. Both of them are British citizens, not related to me, and meet the referee eligibility criteria. Their contact details are included. Please note the second referee's mobile number was corrected to so and so to avoid any communication errors. Now, this is an excellent example of how to give the context. Now, let me explain. I was filling up an application form in which there was a typo error. Sometimes you're typing too quickly, and the mobile number of one of the referees I entered and I submitted. I later found out from the referee when I asked him to double check. He said, Savesh, I made an error. The number is wrong. Now, the application form prior to the payment, once you make the payment, you cannot retract it back, right? So, what do you do in that case? You still have an opportunity to give the context or correct that information through cover letter, because first you fill up the application form, then you pay the fees, and then you submit it. Once you submit it, then you get an opportunity to book your biometrics appointment at TLS contact website, and then upload the supporting documentation, right? Once you upload the supporting documentation, then you submit, and then your job is done. So I took this opportunity through this cover letter to correct that there was an error in the mobile number, and I have rectified it. Here it is, because they would want to find out whether this person actually knows you or not. Okay, so I have provided this context. Second, I have preempted here. I do not know any solicitor or accountant or listed professional who's known me for personally for 3 years. Let me highlight it. I'm telling that I don't know any of those people. It lends credibility to you that you're acknowledging that you don't know someone personally. And just for the sake of British citizenship application, you're not lying. You're saying, instead of this, I have these two people who are not my relatives, but they know me. Personal friend is completely okay. It could be a work colleague, it could be a line manager, it could be somebody who has actually known you, right? For more than 3 years, and they must be British citizen, and they must have not criminal record, and they must be living in the UK, for example. So I have preempted that, and I have relied on personal referees. And you've written this paragraph and you've clarified none of them are related to you and they meet their referee eligibility criteria. Once you've done that, right, your job is done, and I think it is completely acceptable. Now, this is really important. This is where most of the applications fail, because people do not provide 5 years of lawful residence proof, and their understanding and interpretation of the residence is quite different. For example, what some people do is they attach bank statements and um, local bills. That is not acceptable. It is clearly stated that bank statements are not proof of residence, right? I urge you to go and look at that. So, what you do is you say, to provide my continuous residence from 2015 to the present. He's trying to provide till 2025, last 10 years. I would just say this should be 2020 because his qualifying period started from 2020 to 25. But normally he wants to present it from 2015, but it should be for qualifying period from 2020 to 2025. I've included numerous documentation. I also said it in my previous video. Do not just rely on one form of evidence. For example, you provided employment copy or say pay slips. So these are all employment related. What you need to provide is a variety of evidence. It is not just limited to that, but a variety of evidence so that the case officer can really believe that you were actually physically present and living here in the UK. So let's look at that. NHS medical records of correspondence between 2020 to 25 showing appointments. So it is possible that in 2023 he did not visit any doctor, but in 2020 when he came to register, he came registered, he started living in a new place, he changed his GP, he got a letter that is a proof of living in the UK also. Then he went for emergency one time, he had an issue, that communication is also an evidence of physically living in the UK. But what you need to do is make a timeline of year by year. So if he said I covered between 2020 to 25, so you should mark on the PDF, there should be a date that he went 2023, in 2020, in 2024. So there are three years that are covered. So that is one proof. Second proof, let me highlight it, is done. Now, second proof is that he got himself registered at the electoral registration confirmation, which is an ability to actually go and vote. So once you qualify, because you got indefinite status, they send you a letter that now you can do a postal vote or online vote. You get a letter. That letter also serves as a proof of residence in the UK. You can show that. Then he wanted to show HMRC P45 documents covering 2020 to 2025. Now, P45, for someone of you, if you don't know, HMRC is the tax charging authority of the UK. What they do is at the end of the year, this P45 shows you your employer, total income earned, national insurance paid, and income tax paid. Um, for the entire year. If you show for multiple years, because sometimes what can happen is you have worked with probably two employers. So when you're moving, you get a different certificate, right? So you would have a different name of the employer. So if you provide for multiple years, then it shows that actually you were working, you paid taxes, national insurance and income tax both, and your net income, and this was the name of employer one, this was the name of employer two. This is how another way you can prove yourself. Okay. Now, employment letters from Accenture and Microsoft. He also provided that he's worked for two employers, Accenture UK and Microsoft. So it would have given him, salary, what is the job title, who's the employer, the place of reporting, address, HR manager, and all of that. So the case officer, what they will do is they will call most likely the employers and find out about the tax records or through the pay slips, right? That also is a very strong proof of evidence because that would meet. So if you have a letter from these two employers, that would match the P45 documents, because on P45 you would have the name of the employer, right? Now you can also prove that when you came into the country you applied to departments of works and pension to get your national insurance number, which is listed on a payslip. That's another proof. Now, prior to 2025, you got biometric residence permit, which shows a BRP card showing indefinite leave to remain granted to you, and it was valid till 31st of December, sorry, 2024. Now, even if 31st of December 2024 has lapsed, the Home Office is allowing up to 18 months to include that BRP card in the online application form for citizenship. So please make sure you keep that saved with you and enter the reference number, and you're providing the copy of that, both the front copy and the back copy. That also proves that you've been living here. Now, finally, this was one of the most strongest evidences that assisted me in the recent application. And what I did was I said there are two applicants, and since the day they arrived in the UK or since they've been living in the UK in the last 5 years, here is a timeline of their pictures. So I showed pictures of they entering the UK at the airport, exiting the UK airport for when they were leaving the UK for holidays, and then also with the grandchildren, then attending dinner or attending parties together. And the way you show is you show a photograph. You must have a date stamp, date and time stamp if it's possible. Right now it's easy if you took a picture from say social media, take a colored printout where it shows the venue, and then who are the people in it and your picture. But on the top right, on the left hand side, I'm the applicant. In the middle is my say office manager or my neighbor, because it adds credibility to it, because you can show that this picture was taken in say 2021, then another in 2023, 24, 25, like that. Now you don't have to go each month, but if you're able to cover several months over the 5-year period, right, then your evidence becomes very compelling and persuasive, and it shows that actually this person was there. Please make sure that you remain honest in the application. Also, like you provide this variety like medical record, electoral record, tax records, employment record, NI record, biometric record, and photographic. Like you have added now 6 to 7 proof of continuous residence. My suggestion is each evidence should not, it should be a separate PDF file with medium compression and naming like NHS proof of residence in the UK 1 underscore NHS 2020 to 2025. The second would be proof of residence number 2 underscore electoral register. Proof of residence number 3, employment letters, P45 forms, and XYZ. So if you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 like that, and you upload separately under the tab of continuous evidence of residence, it would become easier for the case assessment officer to follow and make a decision, right? If you amalgamate or consolidate all of them into one single file, they'll be scrolling through it, and I do not recommend it. Okay. Now, final, you made some statutory declarations that you do not have a criminal record, you're not associated with any terrorist organization, war crimes, you've not worked in paid or unpaid capacity for any non-UK government, and you've got no breaches in immigration law before, no outstanding debts, and you meet the good character requirements. Now, you say, I confirm I have got no outstanding debts. Please make sure this is accurate. No penalties for breaches of immigration law, no criminal record. Now, if you're living on rent, please make sure that you should not have a civil court, county court, or any court judgment against you. Please make sure that you don't have any speeding fines or disqualifications or offenses like no insurance policy against you, because they will do a check. If you fail on any one of those criterias, they have every right to refuse your application. In case, for example, you had a dispute with your landlord, this is an exception to the situation, and he brought a case against you, for example, and you are still awaiting the trial or something. What do you do in that case? My suggestion is, then I think you should wait for the outcome of the trial, or until the case is fully settled. Because if you say you are that you're not waiting for a trial, but in reality there is a trial going against you, then if you said no, then you made a false disclosure in the application. If there was a judgment against you and you were able to set aside, answer the question, yes, there was a judgment against you, yes, but in the cover letter you provide the context and you provide the court letter saying that judgment has been set aside because of this and this reasons, and please make sure you consult a solicitor when drafting this application, because this could become complex. And the reason why I'm saying is, then you need to make sure that there is a correct and accurate disclosure, and you write it in the cover letter. Once you've done that, the final is very simple, that I meet the good character requirement. There is nothing in my personal history that would prevent me from granting citizenship. If you need to contact me, you can contact me by the email. In declaration, I confirm all the information is important. Now, this looks simple on the eye, but I'm telling you, this is extremely important. And I want to spend some time in helping understand. If you came on a say student visa, for example, and then later you switch to skilled worker visa, right? And then you got the ILR, and now you're applying for British citizenship application. If during the student visa they did the checks and they found out that you work more than 20 hours per week, right? That could be held against you, right? So in order to meet the good character requirement, they want to see that you did not overstay, you complied with your visa conditions, whichever visa you were on. And if you breach one of the visa conditions, right, then it could be held against you. right? So please make sure that you have a clean track record of compliance. You've not done anything that is against uh, meeting the good character requirement. You've not posted any videos that would incite violence or be deemed inciting violence. Okay. And then otherwise you just write your name, sign it, and make it into a PDF copy. And this should be uh, the way you draft your application for a naturalization application. Now, when you look at that, you will make a very strong impression, provided all your documentation is in order, right? As you can see, there is a structure of basis of eligibility, then absences from the UK, which is point number two, English and life in the UK test requirement, then previous passport and travel history documentation, referees is quite important, evidence of continuous residence, extremely important, and then compliance legal standard is pretty standard, good character requirement. And so if you want the copy of this document, you can tailor it to your own application. Mind you, this is not for somebody who is on spouse visa married to a British citizen, because you will have to amend a lot of things, and then there'll be a different qualifying period of 270 days, not 5 years. So please make sure that, and this video is only for educational purposes only. I want to reiterate that this is not legal advice, but I hope this video has been of some assistance to you. And if you want to see how to fill up a British citizenship application form, please look at my video which I launched in my in 2 days ago, and it's in the link down below also, as to how to fill up a British citizenship application form. Your support means the world to me. So I hope you like the video and subscribe to my channel. Till next time, take care.